if you dig a little deeper into even what you can recognize as immutable truths of life, you will see that they will always be dependent on something else. One mathematical equation is dependent on another. Some things have to be assumed. When you have to talk about light, you have to assume the existence of darkness. When you talk about sound, you have to assume the existence of silence. It is impossible to define one thing by itself, because nothing exists by itself. It's like the blue of the sky. Now, where is the blue of the sky? If you start searching for the blue of the sky because you see it, because you perceive it, will you ever find it? Imagine moving towards the sky in the hopes of touching that blue. The closer you go, the more you realize that there is no blue. It is an arrangement. The sky appears blue only when I am at a certain distance. So blue is basically what I am seeing depending on where I am. It has nothing to do with the sky. It has nothing to do with the color blue. It has everything to do with me and where I am standing. Life is not what it is. The colors that you see, the movement you see, the changes you see, none of them are what they are. It is because you are standing somewhere so far away from the actual experience of life. You're lost so deep in your mind that everything appears in a certain way. If you move closer to them, you will see they are nothing like what you had imagined them to be. The blue disappears, the sky clears, and you realize this whole thing is my imagination. There is no blue, there is no sky, it's just emptiness. That is why when you start watching something, when you make it a conscious part of your life to watch something, slowly it disappears. This is what happens in meditation. When you sit and close your eyes and pick an object to watch, after a while the object disappears. It does not become more and more. For example, your disturbance. Initially, when you sit in meditation, your disturbance is at the peak. Your body is disturbing you, your mind is disturbing you. But after, let's say, 6 months of meditation, that disturbance is reduced substantially. You can sit for an hour or a couple of hours without any problem. Your mind, the same mind, which was so overpowering, now you can be with it. Now, what has changed? What you're watching is the same, your mind and your body. The object is the same. But how is it that this same object has become less disturbing now? It's because your position from where you were watching this object has shifted. In your own internal realm, a shift has happened, a moving has happened. From being very far away from life, you have moved a little closer. Because you moved a little closer, the disturbance has reduced a little. What happens when you move the closest to life? What happens when you get to the center of life? Disturbance is zero there. Because disturbance is a perception. It is something that you are experiencing. It is an object. It is outside of you. When you are at the center of perception itself, it is impossible for you to get disturbed because you are the one who's perceiving. You cannot even recognize disturbance. Your mind is still there, it has not disappeared. Your body is also still there. They will continue to do their thing. But they have nothing to do with you. You are free. Advaita is a path of using your mind, using your intellect to separate the truth from the false. The whole philosophy rests on the idea of discrimination. Now, this is discrimination in the purest sense, to discriminate between truth and lies, to separate what is from what isn't. Of all the philosophers who have expounded and expanded on the Advaita Vedanta, Sankara is at the peak. For him, there cannot be a deeper, more intuitive, more direct form of perceiving the truth than Advaita. So much so that he says you cannot reach the truth through any other means, be it yoga or Sankhya. You have to reach it through the path of discrimination. That is how firmly he believes that just by constantly separating the truth from the lies, by sharpening the sword of your intellect to cut everything before something touches you, before something becomes a part of you, you take that sword of discrimination and cut it. Sever its form so that it loses all its power to cling to you. Now, to say you cannot reach enlightenment through yoga, Krishna's whole method is yoga. And to say you cannot reach through Sankhya, Buddha's whole method is Sankhya. Sankhya is path of knowledge. Yoga is path of action. And he says both are useless, both are inferior compared to the path of discrimination. He is actually right. It is not that you cannot reach through yoga. It is not that you cannot reach through Sankhya. What he's saying is, it is impossible to reach without Advaita, without this ability to differentiate between the truth and false, because both yoga and Sankhya inherently are paths of discrimination. What are you trying to do as a yogi? You are trying to separate the truth from the lies. Your mind is not dead in yoga. Although you're performing an action and you want that action to purify you, you are still using your mind. Your mind is still watching that action. Your mind still has to guard itself against being sucked into the world. Without knowing the difference between truth and lies, illusion and reality, it is hard to hold on to the path of yoga, because you cannot be in a state of yoga all the time. You cannot be sitting in meditation all the time. Now, what happens when you're not sitting in meditation? What happens when you are interacting with the world? If you're not using your power of discrimination, you just get sucked into things. And in Sankhya, it's a path of knowledge, path of understanding. And what is it that you're understanding, if not for a way to separate the truth from lies? But it is important to understand that Advaita Vedanta isn't just about intellectually separating the truth from lies. It isn't a philosophy of words. It is a philosophy of action. It is a philosophy That is a method by itself, that is a technique. This is where Advaita Vedanta completely separates itself from all the major religions of the world. Every religion holds on to some fundamental teachings that it recognizes as its founding scripture. The Bible in Christianity, the Quran in Islam, the Torah in Judaism. There is a philosophy there. Without philosophy, a religion cannot exist. But what is the fundamental difference between a philosophy like Advaita and the Catholic doctrine? Catholic doctrine is words revolving around words for the sake of words. You are never introduced to a path. You are never introduced to a method, a technique. You are never pointed in the inward direction. The whole purpose of the doctrine is to put your attention somewhere outside. Vedanta, right from the beginning, separates you from the outside. Its main purpose is to cut the world of delusion that is clinging to you. Both are using words, but in completely different ways. One is tying you more to the world, making you more subservient to ideas, keeping you in bondage. And the other is liberating you by severing you from all that you're not.